Hey everybody, another day at the job site. They're knocking away at the monoblock concrete form blocks on the wall. So here's a wall in this is the guest room, would have been the dirty kitchen, but it is the smaller of the two guest rooms. And they got one wall finished on there. It hasn't been rendered or anything yet, but hey guys! This is the bathroom. This is the mother-in-law guest suite right here. A lot more room in there. Here's my man, Iko. He's doing the roof. Here's the bathroom on the ground floor. We're back there in the shower. There's the smaller of the two, the smallest of the three bedrooms. This one will have a bunk bed there. And this is the living room, and there will be a big sliding door here that will eventually go out to the modern lanai kitchen veranda, or kitchen outside, kind of like a outdoor kitchen. They will have a nice countertop looking out over the mountains. The mountains look really nice today. You can see them all the way down over there to Osminia Peak. And you can see way down there beyond this first fence all the way down. There's our second fence down there. That's the bottom where I plan on putting a fish pond and rows of raised garden beds down there with take out some of those coconut trees. Oh, here will be the security for the property. And here's a there's a big sliding glass door right there. We're having all the windows and sliding doors custom made for an incredible price through somebody that knows somebody. This is where the stairs will be, and there'll be three windows going up at an angle right there. Tall and thin windows. And the patio right here. I had a lot of people asking me, how do you do the top of the monoblock and fill it in with concrete? Well, here, see, we got an area where a full piece wouldn't fit in there. So they cut it down below, did some reinforcing of the rebar and stuff there, and then what they'll do is just cut a thin, I think they've got the piece already ready for it, cut to put in there, and they'll leave little spaces and pour the concrete in there, and then when it's all done, they'll just plug the places they poured it in, and then they will, you know, let that dry. And then eventually, you know, they're going to be doing a small amount of rendering on this. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen the hollow block, the amount of rendering they have to do on a hollow block wall, because it looks like sometimes there's 2-inch gaps. I've seen actual blocks missing where they just fill it in with concrete and rendering. It's really, and they leave gaps everywhere, and they'll fill it with just rendering and stuff. Here, where the whole wall is done with solid concrete, and then all you have to do is render on the outside with a thin layer, and then put a skim coat on it, and it's done. Compared to, oops, man, watch your head. Sometimes it takes a month and a half or more to do the rendering on a hollow block house. And with this, mostly just finishing render is going to be what takes up most of the time. They're also working on the ceiling, because it's getting to be the rainy season right now, so they want to be able to have that done. So we have the steel frame being put in on the ceiling or on the roof, and then we will touch up the joints with some rust-proof paint. We will put insulation up there. And I've checked into much of the insulation here. You know, they have pretty much all the different kinds of insulation here. They've got fiberglass, rock wool. They've got you can get foam-backed roofing material, which sometimes has a tendency to separate and crack because of the heat on it. But usually they will just put some foam with the shiny plastic on the outsides, and you'll it's the same stuff that they put in your windshield up in most of the world to protect your dash from the sun. And believe it or not, that's actually what we're using. You can see it over there. It's the thickest you can get, and I've done a lot of research on it, on what kind to use, and there's a lot of debate as to what to do, but most of what I read is that if you just trap the heat in your roof, you're gonna have more trouble. You want it to get up into the rooftop and then exhaust it. So I'm gonna have a solar exhaust fan up there that will charge up from the sun, and during the day it will be running and exhaust all the heat out of the top roof area. And we also have a white metal roofing material. You can see it over there. and it's one sheet, and it's the thickest you can get. And actually, the whole house will be white because of the reflection of the sun and the heat. And then my plan is to make sure to latch the gate. My plan is to exhaust it out with solar heat, and then I will, inside the house, we have 4 AC units for the living room, loft. We have 1.5 horsepowers, and for the 2 large bedrooms we have 1 horsepower. And they're made by Medea, but they are sold under the name Boston Bay. And hey, Iko, can you latch the gate? Thank you. And then so it'll be exhausted. Thanks, brother. And then I will also put a dehumidifier. Now you can run your air conditioning on dry, which saves energy and also sucks the moisture out of the air, which makes a huge difference. I'll tell you, I have run most of our air conditioners now, the split unit kind. I run them on dry, and it's actually gets colder at night because it doesn't keep it at a certain temperature, it just keeps cooling it, and it gets really cold, and it saves energy over most. It has an eco button on it too. You can press eco, that saves a lot. So you can either set it on a relatively medium temperature and then hit the eco button, and it'll save money. All those, and you can turn the fan down a little bit too, but sometimes it will actually not keep you cool enough. So I think it's a little bit better to just have it on eco and have it lower, or have it not on eco and just have the temperature a little higher, and or dry, and it saves a lot of money. But I'll have solar up here pretty quickly because I like to run my AC units. I'm not one who's gonna just, sometimes up here, because the beach is right there and there's a breeze blowing most of the time, especially not this time of year, you're gonna need the AC. But quite often it's plenty. You can just have the windows open and it'll be nice and cool breeze. In the evenings when you're sitting out on the patio, you don't need an AC. And like I said before, I'm gonna get a lot of citronella everywhere, plants, and that'll keep a lot of the mosquitoes away. And you know what, if you want to know about termites, which are just voracious here, man, they're just horrible. We have a property in Bareilly, and in less than a year it ate a lot of the door frames that we counted on. The doors we bought ourselves, the door frames were put in by the builder, and they weren't treated. But you can use Stalignan or whatever it is, and treat it. And right now we had to replace the door jambs and everything. Everything's good. There's no insects in the house. And even though we just had two massive termite queen hatching, if you see them flying around, that means the queens are out. And I'm talking, there was millions of them everywhere. And so if you got a house, make sure you treat all the wood, and don't have any wood on the outside of the house, I would suggest. And if you get like a bahay kubo, like a bamboo, a lot of noise, like a bamboo hut like this right here, this is a Bahay Kubo right there, like a daytime one. They also have ones you can even sleep in, treated. Sometimes they say they're treated, but a lot of times houses and everything, you'll hear that they treated them, but they really don't do a good job, or they don't treat them at all and tell you they do. And I'll tell you one of the major things about building a house in the Philippines, especially if you got a contractor. Now, if you got like an engineer or foreman that's experienced and stuff, you can explain stuff to them and be there every day. But a lot of times you'll tell them and they'll say, okay. They don't understand what you're saying, but they will say they do because they don't want to sound lacking experience. They don't want to sound, like they don't know English, which most of them speak English, but they just may not know all the words. So you really have to take the time to show them. You have to take the time to make sure they understand. When they start doing something, watch them and help them learn. Watch some videos on it so you know how to do it. When I started doing these monoblocks, none of the workers here, or very few, maybe in the big cities, some of them, I've seen some buildings going up with some new products and stuff, and I could talk to the company that makes these monoblocks, where we become close. I could ask them for some contractors that have been using them and go watch them, learn. You could even bring your crew there to watch. That would be really smart to do. But as long as you watch them, you really take the time to explain it and be there with them the first times when they're doing it. We had some issues. I had to go back and have these guys watch some videos with them, even though they're very experienced and good workers and engineers, amazing. I had already sent videos to the engineer, but you really need to follow up, go along with them, watch these things, learn. If you want something done the American standard, don't just say, I want these done to American standard sizes, American standard. Alright, I got cut off because my camera overheated. It says on my truck, it says 115 degrees. So it is extremely hot today. And the sun is beating down. The humidity's high because it's been raining. So, it is hot. But I was talking about, communication here is a key. You have to really take it to the next level and explain things and make sure they're understood, because otherwise it'll come back to bite you. If you want things to American standards, you have to really explain what they are, and in their terms. They got great craftsmen here, but they're used to using very simple tools. The tools here are very simple. You can give them work boots and all kinds of new tools. I brought a very expensive, large commercial vibrator. Here, I got I gotta look for the head, but here's the motor for it, and it has, I think, like a 16 to 20 foot long vibrating head, super heavy duty. There it is right there. Okay, way over there, it's very long, but mostly they just can use it on the big floor pours. They're not even sure about using it on the beams, but I convinced them to do it. But you don't want it over vibrated, which that could do pretty easily, and separate the rocks and from the other parts. So you have to really, explain everything in detail, I got all kinds of things like these for tying the steel and stuff. It'll automatically tie it, and nope, they didn't like it, so they just went with the handmade one. So you can bring, I brought a lot of tools, but I brought a laser level, four-way laser level. They had it sitting here for a long time, and then I finally took it out and really turned it on and explained everything and stuff, and now they're using it. But before, they were really not using it. So sometimes it's just not worth bringing all the equipment, and they're used to using their own tools, very simple hammers, very simple, they'll make their own tools for smoothing out the concrete and putting on the rendering. They'll just make it out of a piece of plywood and a handle. So that's what they're used to, and that's really what they're best at using. So just concentrate on showing them the techniques and what you want the outcome to be. That's the most important thing. And be around daily. We're here 9 out of 10 days, even though our main house is 2.5 hours away. My mother-in-law's house is only 40 minutes away, so we spend most of our time there during the week and go home on the weekends. And traveling across the island is pretty slow. It's not really that far, but it takes like almost 3 hours. It's maybe like 50 miles. I think it's 50 something miles. So you got a lot of trikes, you get a lot of electric bikes, you got a lot of, even some pedicab and stuff like that. So that's my tips for the day. So everybody take care, and please help us out. Like, share, and subscribe. Appreciate it. Thanks.